Yeah, because I'm sure we'll have a picture. Yes. Kind of hard, so tight in here though, that's always a challenge.
Miss Williams, Miss Tisworth, Miss Jackson, Miss Lane,
Here.
Miss Morrill,
Present.
Dr. Yvonne Elliott,
Present.
and Dr. Coleman.
Present. This time we will, stand please for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. At this time, we will call for the reading of our board norms by Vice President, Ms. Morrill.
Thank you. Good evening. The board norms for the Riverview Gardens School Board. Our board norms are as follows. Cohesive team. Pause to hear all voices after someone speaks. Consider all opinions. Assume positive intentions. Item 2, collective agreement. Collective voices to reach decisions. Honor and respect the work of the board. Honoring and supporting the board decisions at all times. 3, be prepared for meetings. The board will review the packet and submit questions within the established time frame. Members of the board will arrive 5 minutes prior to the start of the meeting. Administration will send out board packets to the Riverview Gardens School Board within the identified time frame. And 4, not allowed outside entities to dictate board actions. The Riverview Gardens School Board decisions will be made based on facts, policies, and procedures, not individuals' opinions or requests. Educate and encourage the community to follow proper protocols for voicing concerns, and that's policy KC under community engagement. Those are our board norms.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
It's been motioned by Dr. May, and second by Ms. Williams to approve the agenda. Roll call vote, please, Shay. What do I need?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Are there any questions or any items for discussion relates to the agenda? Thank you. Motion carries. At this time, as we look at our minutes today, would mark the election of board officers, the election of a board secretary and a treasurer. I'd like a motion to,
For the board secretary.
a motion for the, we want to discuss
Nomination.
this.
You want nomination?
Oh, okay. I'll start with the treasurer. a motion for a nomination for treasurer.
I nominate. Miss
I
Um,
didn't hear that.
She said she didn't hear you.
I nominate Ms. Lane, treasurer.
I would like to nominate, Miss Monica Williams.
Motion has been made, to nominate, Ms. Lane and Ms. Williams at this time. We'll hold a vote, or do we need to?
Madam Chair,
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed it. In accordance with the policy BCC one, appointed board officers, the school board shall elect a secretary and treasurer on or before July 15th of each year. We may also elect an alternate secretary and treasurer to serve in situations where the elected secretary or treasurer is absent or unable to perform the duties of the position. The secretary and treasurer may or may not be board members. Secretaries and treasurers who are not board members may receive reasonable compensation for services. The board shall elect replacements when either office is vacated or when the board determines that the individual needs to be replaced. Can we start with the treasurer, Shay? Okay. Okay. So we'll start with Ms. Lane. Ms. Lane, do you accept the nomination first of all?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Lane, for yourself? Yes. Ms. Mara Real.
Ms. Lane.
I'm sorry. They want to, the voting for Ms. Lane. Don't we have to do them, since it's two people, one at a time? No?
I'll make a motion, I'm sorry. Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that the nominations be closed with the names of Wanda Lane and Monica Williams. She second, Monica second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so I'm sorry, should we start again and with Ms. Lane first? No? Ms. Lane, I'm sorry. Ms. Mara Real?
Ms. Lane,
Yes.
yes, Ms. Lane.
She said yes. Dr. May,
No.
Ms. Jackson? Okay, and I vote for Ms. Lane, Ms. Titsworth, and Ms. Williams. Okay. That's 5 and 2. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, five yes for Ms. Lane, 1 no,
Two no.
2 no's, and 1 extension. So there were 4 yes votes, 1 abstention, and 2 no votes.
Yes.
So now, we want don't we have to do, do we have to do the other one? It's kind of self-explanatory. Okay. You wanna? I don't want, I'm so confused.
Ms. Lane? No. Laura Real?
No.
Dr. Cole?
No.
Dr. Elliott?
Yes.
Dr. Ms. Jackson?
Abstain. Okay.
You just declare Wanda as the.
So at this time, according to the votes, the newly elected treasurer will, we did that. Okay. it's a call for a vote to, we did that part.
Yeah.
So all we need now is,
Just a-
I'm just, we declared Miss Wanda Lane as our secretary.
Board chair, the treasurer.
I'm sorry,
Treasurer.
board treasurer.
Okay.
Madam Chair, can I entertain, a motion to nominate, the alternate treasurer? For the policy.
A motion has been made to alternate, to nominate or to obtain an alternate treasurer. I'm assuming you mean Ms. Williams. Can I get a second
I'll second.
for an alternate? Okay, it's been moved by Dr. May and second by Ms. Mario to select an alternate treasurer via Ms. Monica Williams. Roll call vote, please. Shay?
Ms. Lane? Yes. Ms. Tisworth? Yes. Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Dr. Mark Elliott?
Yes.
Ms. Williams? Yes. Dr. Cole?
Yes.
Mario?
Yes.
Oh,
Motion passes.
the motion for Monica Williams as the alternate treasurer passes. At this time, nomination for secretary.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to nominate Shay Fields to retain the position of Secretary, Board Secretary.
It's been motioned by Ms. Mara Real and second by Ms. Monica Williams to maintain Shay Fields as the board secretary. Roll call vote, please. Are there any other nominations?
Madam Chair, with no other nominations, I'd like for this to be closed. Nominations to be closed.
It's been moved and second that
Oh, it's a motion on the floor? Okay.
The one you made?
Oh.
the motion to,
Close.
it's been moved and second to close the nominations for secretary. At this time, now we need a vote. It was moved by Ms. Maureen and second by Ms. Williams. For you to remain as secretary, so now we need the vote, right? Okay.
Yes. Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Dr. Mark Elliott?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Lane? Yes. Mario?
Yes.
Yes.
I would like to entertain a motion for, is it Ms. King?
Demetra King?
Demetra King to be the, alternate secretary in the absence of the secretary.
I think she serves.
I second. Yes.
It's been motioned by Dr. Ma Elliott and second by Ms. Maharil that Demetria King be the alternate secretary in the absence of Ms. Shay Fields. Okay. Roll call vote, please, Shay.
Ms. Lane?
Yes.
Excuse me. So we have to close that either way? We don't, thank you. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Ms. Lane? Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Tisworth? Yes. Dr. Mark Elliott?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Hey, at this time, oh, that was a lot. At this time, do we have any patron participation today? Okay, thank you very much. Moving to the announcements, I want to announce and be transparent that we have received correspondence from Denitria Neal, who is requesting to meet with the board in regards to partnering with us to sponsor a charter school. At this time, we are gathering information so that we can make sure that we are giving everyone the best and the most accurate information that we can. I will remind you, for those of you who may not know, that last year we held a town hall meeting in which we informed our public and all of our stakeholders about the impact of charter schools in our district. And at that time, the board did not think that it was advantageous or beneficial for our school district. Also, we, the majority of us, with the exception of one, sent a petition to the governor to veto the Senate Bill 727, which promotes charter schools and voucher systems. And we unfortunately did not veto that bill. So that's where we stood. So right now, what we're doing before we agree, we are, first of all, let me say, we are under no obligation to meet with Ms. Neal at all. And it would have to be the decision of the board to conduct such a meeting. But at this time, we are gathering information and making sure that we have all the information that we need so that we make the best decision for our district. Dr. Patton, would you like to add anything?
No.
Okay, so, just so, are there any questions? Okay, because I think all of you at this time, we're all in receipt of the letter now. So more information would be forthcoming as to how we decide, if we decide to meet with Ms. Neal. Yes, you have the next.
Yes, I want to share with the board and the staff and community, if they're interested, the Missouri State Association of Parliamentarians is having 2 sessions for parliamentary training on August the 19th. The payment is due on August the 5th, and there's 2 sessions that individuals can attend both or one or the other. But the second session is, I guess, more advanced. So one session is 1 to 4 and the second is 5 to 7:30. The cost is pretty minimum, like $35 or so. But I think that since most of the committees still have to follow Robert's Rule of Order when they're conducting business, it may be beneficial to learn more about that procedure.
Can I ask where it's where, did it say where it was located, going to be located?
It's gonna take place at the Ferguson Community Center, 1050 Smith Avenue. And so I can forward to Ms. Shea, the information for registration.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. At this time, we will hand it over to our superintendent, Dr. Tanya.
Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you, thank you. I am excited to sit in this chair. I've sat in this chair for Dr. Joyland. It wasn't nearly as hot. And now that I'm sitting here, it's pretty hot. So, but I am excited. So thank you for your belief in me. I will certainly do my best. My #1 goal is to get this district to full accreditation and focus on students and staff of this district. So those are my goals, and we will do that. We will definitely do that. So I do want to mention just a couple of announcements, or just we did a great job last Friday or the Friday before last celebrating Dr. Joyland in her retirement. Many people came out, celebrated her. She was definitely surprised. She tried to run out of the room. We had to escort her back in. We actually had to have security out there to turn her around. So she was definitely surprised. So for all of you who participated in the planning of that, whatever you brought, however you contributed, we started that planning in January. And every time we were meeting, we made sure she was out of the office, but for some reason, she would call Demetra as if she knew we were meeting. And so, but we got it done and she was very surprised. So for everyone who participated in the training, showed up to celebrate her, thank you, thank you, thank you. She was definitely surprised and in tears. So I do want to acknowledge we have some new administrators in the room that I would like to introduce now that we are in the 24-25 school year officially. I would like to introduce Tiffany Buchanan. Ms. Buchanan, would you please stand? She is our new Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction. We already know Deirdre Liddell, she's over there. She is our Executive Director of Student Support Services. Dr. Tasha Jordan, she's our Science Curriculum Coordinator. We have Dr. Melissa Nash. She is our district interventionist. And we have a few others that I don't see. We have Ms. Tracy Nave. She is our Assistant Superintendent of Leadership and Accountability. Dr. Amy Blackwell, she's the principal at Koch Elementary. And Teresa Harris, she's the principal at Highland. So welcome to all of our new administrators. You've came to a wonderful district. We have work to do and we are glad to have you as part of the team. Thank you for being here and thank you for joining us. We continue to learn to prepare for our students throughout the summer. So currently there is an Equity in Action Conference happening at Westview. That was today and it will also continue tomorrow. We did our Dare to Lead training about 2 weeks ago. And from what I heard from all of the administrators who participated, it was a wonderful training, something that they felt like they needed. And we will bring the trainer back in periodically throughout this school year, just to kind of give us a refresher and to make sure we're on the course to move our district forward. We have training coming up July 22nd through the 24th with Solution Tree. And if you are not aware, we've partnered with Solution Tree for the school year. For the last 2 years, actually, we are in our 3rd year and they are helping, working with our building administrator as well as our Executive Director of Continuous Improvement, Ms. Barbara Sharp, in making sure that our school district is moving forward and gets to full accreditation. And then finally, I had the opportunity yesterday to meet a few of our student workers. I met 3 of them as they were in our building supporting us and helping. And I got into a conversation. I found out that one of them will be going. He was working with Mr. Lachey, who is our facility supervisor. And he was unsure. He was a graduate of 23-24. He was unsure of what he wanted to do. Working with Mr. Deshay, Mr. Deshay was able to get him in a union carpenter apprenticeship program. So even just showing up, we are blessing them. And I can tell you these 3 young men were excited to be here. And that young man was excited to get into the apprenticeship. So he will get training. And then when he's done, he will be, and he will have all of the training necessary and the certification for carpentry. So we are excited for that. So thank you, board, for approving our student workers because they not only get the opportunity to help us, but we get the opportunity to help them. So thank you for that. And that ends my announcements. All right. We can move right into items for information. Presenting the item for information from Ameren. It's a check presentation. Yay! Making this presentation is Carl Scheid. He is our Executive Director of Facilities, and this presentation is in conjunction with policy KH Public Gifts to Schools.
Good evening, Board of Education, Dr. Patton, colleagues, community. Tonight I come forward with some information. As stated in the background of this item, back in the fall of 23, the Riverview Gardens School District was given an opportunity to team up with the Ameren Biz Savers program, and utilizing the services of Aleo Prime, we were able to receive an interior lighting retrofit to LED lighting at all of our buildings. So every school plus the central services, facilities, transportation, FCRC. So all the buildings received the lighting retrofit. Approximately 9,617 fixtures were converted and then 166 new fixtures were put in. With us tonight are representatives from both the Ameren Biz Savers Program and Alio Prime. I'll let them come forward at this time. Like to say a few words.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Thank you for having us. I just want to say what an honor it was to work with the Riverview Gardens School District. Carl Scheid was wonderful. Lamar Deshay, our man on the ground, he was fantastic to work for. And I wanted to say a quick shout out to Miss Jane Crum, Miss Crum. She was just wonderful to work with. Real quickly, we were able to complete the LED upgrade for 13 of your schools. We did the district office and the transportation facility. The grand total of those projects was just over $675,000. We have what we're going to save the district in kilowatt hours for this next year, 1.4 million kilowatt hours saved. And that's approximately $140,000 in energy savings for the year. And that's each year. So these lights have actually become a profit center for the district. So again, we were so happy and honored to work with everyone and we hope you enjoy your new lights. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Just to add what Tim had mentioned, since the program's inception in 2014, when you started participating, there has been a total of 55 projects completed throughout the district. And that amount, the incentive alone was $985,000 in incentive money that you have received over the years. You know, what we're going to present today is just what Alio Prime has done recently for your lighting. And what does that mean in terms of sustainability? Because that's very important to everyone. It's like removing 245 cars off the road for 1 year, or lighting and powering 2,418 homes for 1 month. So to Carl and everybody here on the board, kudos to you for doing the program, allowing us to offer incentives for these lighting upgrades. And we look forward to maybe doing something in the future for your HVAC or some other areas as well. So on behalf of Ameren Biz Savers Program, we'd like to present you with a check in the amount of $675,000, $177.48. You should have gotten the actual checks already, but exactly. But, you know, if you want to do some photo opportunities, we're welcome to do that with you. And we appreciate you participating in our program. Thank you.
I think be in the middle, hold the check. I need the honor. Team efforts.
You're taking the check back? What's happening?
She's recycling.
Oh,
Let's
Yeah,
try
we've already-
to-
we've
oh,
already-
we got the real one. That's
Ceremony,
all
we've
that
already-
matters.
Reap the benefits of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before we move on to items for information or items for discussion, I do want to take a moment. We lost one of our Riverview Garden students over the last week. I neglected to mention that in my announcements and to ask for a moment of silence, but I would like to ask for a moment of silence on behalf of the student that we lost. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I ask that our students are protected and that they return to us in the fall for our 24-25 school year. So send prayers for that family, that they have peace in their minds, understanding in their hearts. Thank you all for that. We will move on to items for discussion. The first item for discussion is the Stipends for Equity and Action Conference. Making this presentation is Dr. Tiffany Patton, and this is in conjunction with Policy GCL, Professional Development. Dr. Patton?
Good evening, board members, Dr. Patton, colleagues, community, and friends. I present to you this item this evening to request approval of payment of a stipend for district employees who have attended the Equity in Action Conference. The Equity in Action Conference Committee has planned a two-day conference to be conducted on today, July 9th, and then tomorrow, July 10th. And we would like to compensate district staff members at a rate of $100 a day, which is an estimated $200 per person for attending the conference. This is a decrease from the amount approved for payment last school year, which was at a rate of $25 per hour with the cost of $300 per person. Due to the increase in the number of participants, we went from 100 to 200. The committee seeks to balance the cost of attendance by using a stipend payment instead of an hourly rate, saving roughly $20,000 in costs. It is recommended that the board approve the stipend payments for attendees at the district's Equity in Action Conference not to exceed a total cost of $45,600. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about this item.
Quick question. So do we have 200 confirmed? I saw it was for 200.
That's the estimate amount. So we had 190 registrations, but some of those were community members. According to what we currently have, district staff's about 150.
Okay. Is there any type of exit survey or something that they complete to demonstrate their learning at the end of the conference that coincide with the stipend?
They complete a feedback survey as they do on any professional learning day. And in that survey, they are asked to share key takeaways. But it's a conference, so the application is guided by the individual.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes. How many hours is the conference?
6 hours, 8:30 to 3:30.
Both days?
Yes.
Or total?
Mhm.
So total 12?
Yes. Uh-huh.
I have a question. In regards to the Equity in Action Conference, what steps will be taken to share the information with other teachers in the district? Will there be presentations and professional development so that teachers can implement the learned strategies upon their return, as well as share that information with colleagues?
The information that's provided by the presenters that we have contracted with is provided to district staff who've attended. So the conference is based on volunteer participation. We don't require people to attend because it's the summer. However, we have the information available for those who have attended. And as requested by building, we can provide those PowerPoints.
I guess I'm asking this because as a teacher, I know we go on professional development all of the time, and we gather a lot of information and we put it in our pockets and on our shelves, and we don't do anything with it. So my question is that this is an enormous amount of money to spend. I don't want anybody to walk away from the conference with all this treasure in their pockets. I would think that the goal would be able to come back and share, hey, this is what we learned. And every person that attends should have something that they bring back and they share from. And I would hope that not everyone is going to the same takeout session, so that when we have those breakout sessions, that everybody comes back
and everybody has something to give, to bring back, because other than that, I don't understand the point of going if we're not bringing back information that's going to help all of our scholars and all of our teachers.
So the assumption is that when people attend the conference, that they use the learning and apply it to their practice. And so it's not technically a bringing back because it is a district conference. And so the learning that is gained from that experience is embedded in the work that they do. So we have professional growth plans for teachers. They have goals that can focus on the items that are presented in the conference. Additionally, the conference topics are aligned to what teachers have requested per the state guidelines for professional development. We do have to complete a needs assessment. And the needs assessment is where teachers communicate what their interest is in learning topics. And so that conference is planned based on what the teachers say they would like to learn more about. And the goal is for them to apply that in the classroom.
I think you're kind of missing, let's pretend that Miss Valerie at Highland she teaches fourth grade and she has 30 students. And Valerie goes to the conference and she gets all this wonderful information and she comes back and she shares that information with her 30 students. But what about the other 450 students that are at Highland who could also benefit from that information and benefit from that learning? So what I'm asking is, when Miss Valerie comes back, can she provide professional development to the staff or provide some type of presentation to the staff? This is what we learned. This is what we're trying. And as a PLC and as a learning community, can we share that information, give the teachers a chance to implement the information? And it may mean that the instructional coaches have to go over and coach a little bit, but to share that information so that all of our scholars benefit, not just one teacher in a building. And I mean, it's like if you have 5 kids, you're gonna feed one and let the rest of them go hungry? No, you're gonna feed them all. You're gonna find a way to give everybody something. And so that same attitude should transpire to how we educate. If we're gonna spend this amount of money going on professional development, it should, obviously, we know we cannot send every teacher in the district to the professional development, but if you're going and we're investing that type of money in you, I think it's your responsibility to come back and say, this is what I learned. And this is, and we might need to contact the presenters again and say, hey, can you brush me up on this part? I'm missing something here, but let's have a greater benefit than just one teacher, one classroom, one school. Let's try to impact all of our, because if it's something new and if it benefits you, then it might benefit me down the hall too. I may not have been able to go. Maybe I'm at home taking care of my sick mom during the summer and I couldn't go on the conference, but I need the information. And so I think it's our responsibility to come back and share that information with all of our colleagues so that all of our students benefit.
So Dr. Coleman, let me step in just a second. So Tiffany Buchanan and I have been meeting and will continue to meet. We're looking at the professional development policy. And we're reviewing it to see what information is being brought back. Can that information be shared in the building level during building PD days so that we can create equity across? We're also looking at the number of professional developments employees take. So we're looking at, is it tied to their particular job description? And how can that benefit us when you look at instruction or when you look at student achievement? So we are looking at right now, we had this conversation, I think yesterday, and we will continue to have it to look at our policy to see how this information can be shared so that we can create equity. I agree with you. If it is in fact going into one classroom, that's great for those 25 students, but what about the rest of the building? And so if we are ever to get back to full accreditation, we have to look at things in a different way. And so we are looking at that in a different way.
Thank you. I recall when we had a Kagan training, some of you may remember, we had a lot of teachers in the district went and we went to Florida, wherever it was, to the training. But those people were expected, they became our Kagan gurus.
Mhm.
And they came back and they did professional development throughout the district so that every teacher, and we bought the resources and the materials that they needed so that every teacher knew those practices and Kagan practices and was able to do it. And that's the best way to benefit the entire district. You had a
I got a
question?
follow-up question. Just based on her inquiry, do you know how many instructional coaches are attending? Because I think that's where maybe the support can come in at.
I want to say there were about two,
Hmm.
but so the conversation, the examples given are very specific and linear. The conference focuses on a broad number of topics. We do currently have in our professional development procedures for staff members who go out to conferences to bring back presentations and present to their professional learning communities. This is not going out to a conference, it's a district conference. However, we can add in information sharing to this piece so that schools, when they do open, they have the autonomy to use the information as needed. But the instructional coaches, it's the summer. So people are attending based on their schedules, their interests, and things of that nature.
I think, Dr. Patton, you understand my concern. and
Yes, I do.
I'm
Yeah.
Confident you can.
And we will address that.
Thank you so much.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Are there any
Any
other
other
questions?
questions?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item up for discussion is convocation keynote speaker for the 24-25 convocation. By the way, that will be on August 9th and it will be held at UMSL in the Toll Hill Center. Making this presentation is our Executive Director of Student Support Services, Ms. Deirdre Liddell, and this is in conjunction with Policy GCL, Professional Staff Development Opportunities. Ms. Liddell?
Greetings to the Riverview Board of Education.
Yay.
Dr. Tanya Patton, colleagues and community, I bring before you the contract for the keynote speaker for convocation. The keynote speaker for this year goes in line with our turnaround program. She is a principal from Philadelphia that has a strong track record in turning around several schools. She has a TED Talk, and she also turned around one of the schools that was labeled the most dangerous school in America. So with this, the contract has been vetted by legal services, and it is recommended that the Riverview Garden School District Board of Education approve the proposed keynote speaker for convocation in the amount not to exceed $10,000. Are there any questions?
Yes, my question is about recording. I see that it indicates internally, and you know how, especially like at a convocation, people are gonna pull out their phone, go live. Are we prepared to address that internal only recording that's requested in the contract?
Yes, ma'am. We can ask that there are no recordings and different things like that for the district. Convocation is recorded each year for the district.
Okay.
Are there any additional questions?
No more question? I'm just looking forward to hearing her in person.
Ms. Morrow, have you seen her TED Talk?
Yes.
Yep. And Ms. Liddell and I had the opportunity to meet with her last week. And I think we were at another TED Talk of hers. So she's very passionate and she has served a similar community. And so she can really help support us in moving our district forward. Ms. Liddell, you can remain right there for the next two, actually. The next item up for discussion is the 7 Mindsets High School Curriculum. Ms. Deirdre Liddell again, and this is in connection to policy IIA instructional materials. Ms. Liddell?
Greetings again. I bring before you the 7 Mindsets Social-Emotional Learning Program. The Social-Emotional Learning Program is designed to help students with their emotions, mental health needs, and also some of their social and community challenges. With this program, there are 3 steps to it. There is a base curriculum that deals with mental health. There is also a curriculum that deals more with growth mindset, college and career curriculum, different things like that. And then there's also a curriculum for more tier 2 and tier 3 students that may have some deeper challenges. There's also a piece in there that deals with substance use and misuse and different things like that. So with this curriculum, we also have the opportunity to use it not just at the high school, but out throughout the district on a tier 2 and tier 3 level. So let's just say there is a group of scholars that needs some more additional assistance. Let's say they get in trouble for something simple as social media. Social media is a hot topic. With that, instead of them being suspended over something, it's possible that we can pull them into a group. So we can also use this curriculum as an alternative to suspension. The amount is budgeted, and the budget source is for ESSER 3. The budgeted amount is $41,200. We recommend that the Riverview Garden School District approve the 7 Mindsets curriculum at the next board meeting. Are there any questions in regards to the curriculum?
Ms. Williams?
Okay. I was just curious of the class that it may be implemented in and the professional development piece of it.
Yes, ma'am. So we are starting advisory courses throughout. So this model will be used in the advisory course at the high school. And with that, we've already set up a PLC process where they will begin the training throughout that model.
Okay, so the courses or modules probably run like how many minutes a session, or is it set up like that?
Yes, so it depends on, so the tier 1 sessions are a little bit shorter. So they can kind of get through more of the sessions. Tier 2 and tier 3 become a little bit longer where you can use them in small group and break those sessions up.
Okay, and are they doing morning and evening advisory?
No, it's just
If
one.
it's a morning advisory
Yes,
for
ma'am.
about what?
One
how many
class.
minutes?
So it's 90 minutes.
Okay.
Within that minute, within those minutes, they have the opportunity to check attendance, check grades, call parents, build those relationships, as well as use some of those college and career tools that we have as well. So we have a full schedule of what they will be doing within their advisory classes throughout the school year.
Okay, and the alternative program that's coming back will benefit that?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So is it every day that the advisory teachers will be implementing this curriculum?
This will be every other day since they're on an A-day, B-day schedule.
Thank you.
So she just asked the question I was gonna ask you, was it every day, but it's saying.
Mhm.
Are there any other questions?
Okay, and
I'm,
you good, Dr. Coleman?
Yes.
Okay, the next item up is our Branching Mind MTSS platform. Making this presentation is Ms. Deirdre Liddell, Executive Director of Student Support Services, and Ms. Carmen Mays, our MTSS Coordinator. This particular item is in conjunction with policy IGAB, Instructional Interventions. Ms. Mays.
Right. Good evening, Board of Education, Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Tanya Patton, colleagues, community, and friends. Good evening.
Is this your first time presenting at a board meeting, Ms. Mays?
It is not.
Oh, I was going to introduce you if it was, but since you've done it before, proceed.
Well, I am Carmen Mays. I'm the district MTSS coordinator, so thank
And
you.
did you all dress alike on purpose?
You know, we just had to throw in something, to bring that in to
Okay.
everybody. We
Okay.
just, like to keep the smiles and laughter going. An RFP was brought forth with a bid opening date of April 23rd, 2024 for a multi-tier systems of support learning platform. Branching Minds partners with school districts to streamline and improve the MTSS program through our MTSS platform, which saves teachers time. It is a web-based application that syncs our student information system and assessment data to automatically tier students, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and it automatically will tailor interventions to match their needs. It also will help with early identification of scholars who may be struggling academically, behaviorally, socially, or emotionally, basically the whole child aspect under the MTSS umbrella. It will also assist in addressing disparities and ensures that interventions are equitable. Basically, every child will get what they need in creating more of the equity lens. The MTSS solution portion of the Branching Minds framework, it helps figure out who needs what supports, when they need it, and how they need it, and why. It also helps find the right interventions and create plans, as well as document work and progress monitor. So there is a progress monitoring tool within the platform that every staff member that's involved with that child will receive alerts. And it will also be able to notify if that child is missing their interventions being brought forth. In addition, the family communication and documentation, it will be streamlined. Also, the MTSS platform will connect all 5 areas of our CSIP to avoid working in silos: behavior over here, social emotional over here, academics over here. So under goal 2 of strategy 4, under our collaborative culture and climate, is to create a district-wide pyramid of interventions and supports. So this platform will tier our students automatically and monitor it with fidelity. So that will be able to make us match our goal and our strategy. It will also help us gain visibility, that we're able to see teacher workloads, family communications and student support, intervention usage and support plan fidelity, students' holistic intervention report, and implementation health metrics. One of the very neat portions of Branching Minds is it has a social emotional behavioral screener built into it called the DESA. The DESA is a brief questionnaire that asks about 8 domains of students' social emotional wellness: personal responsibility, optimistic thinking, goal-directed behavior, social awareness, decision-making, relationship skills, self-awareness, and last but not least, self-management. All students will be able to be assessed with the social and emotional screener at the beginning of the year, as well as at the end of the year. And interventions can be put in place in between those as needed, and progress monitored with fidelity. The legal reference is currently pending legal review. The budget impact is $81,750. The budget source is Student Support Services ESSER 3 funds, and we recommend that the board approves this platform at the next meeting. I am happy to answer any questions, comments, or concerns that you may have.
Yes, what grade level is the lowest grade level that it supports is one of the questions.
Kindergarten.
Okay, all right. And then the other question is, once again, about rollout, like what's the timeline and the teacher training that's necessary for this
Yeah.
program?
So the rollout will look like this. Once it is hopefully confirmed and agreed upon to move forward, they would need, Branching Minds would need 2 to 4 weeks, because they're going to customize the entire framework to meet our needs. They're also going to meet with district super users, which we're going to identify super users for each building to be able to share the information throughout their building. So that way everyone could get specific training that they need. So the rollout will look like various trainings, in person and virtual. Part of the package is a lot of training, because we know how things can be transient, as well as training for our subs. So there is training throughout the district quarterly. But the ultimate training will be at the beginning of the year, and we're going to identify super users for each building to be able to carry that information out. And they would also have a go-to person in each building for expertise. Also in the platform is a 24-hour online help chat, not an artificial intelligence, but an actual person 24 hours a day that will be able to answer any questions for staff.
Will there be an expectation in some type of way for this to be a part of PLC discussions? How would it look like in the daytime when it comes to planning and discussions amongst individuals when it comes to children?
So we do expect for it to be a part of our PLC meetings. We do expect for it to move forward. It will help bring organization to the PLC process, because all of the data, the assessment, the information will be right in the platform. So we'll help guide the conversations, be able to facilitate next steps. So all of that with and drive our interventions. It has an intervention library built into it. And they also want to select our interventions that have been working to combine it with their intervention library.
And lastly, the role of the counselor and the social worker with this platform.
Well, I'm hoping that the counselor or social worker will be identified as one of the building's super users. I would think that that would be a great position for the counselor, social worker, instructional coach, maybe reading specialist to be identified as super users for the go-to. It will also help drive them for our I-team process, care team, wraparound. We call them so different, many different names. But it will help drive them for the information to be tailored from the very beginning for goal setting, progress monitoring, and interventions.
And it'll help take all of our resources that are located in all these different platforms and pull them all into one.
Okay.
Right. So we're trying to avoid the silos and bring it all together.
Yes, ma'am. I'm laughing at Dr. Coleman because the minute you said it, super users will train the people in the building, her entire face lit up because that's kind of what she was alluding to earlier. So, yes. And let me add, Dr. Coleman and the board, we've been working on this for the last 8 or 9 months, and we've met with, Ms. Mays and Ms. Liddell has met with many people within our district, our science coordinator, reading, math coordinators, Ms. Sharp, the continuous improvement. We've brought everyone together so that this will not be done in a silo, because we have got to address the tier 2 and tier 3 students so we can get them into tier 1. And we have to do that effectively. So, so we've been working on the structure of this for a while.
Are there any other questions, comments, or concerns?
Thank you.
We look forward to it.
All right, thank you.
All right, our next item up for discussion is K-12 Insight Contract Renewal. Making this presentation is our Executive Director of Communications, Mr. Ishmael Sistrunk, and this is in conjunction with Policy KC. Mr. Sistrunk.
Good evening, Board of Education, Dr. Patton, colleagues and community. It's your first night, so we'll give you a
Thank
pass
you,
on the.
thank you. I need about 3 or 4 passes.
I'm here to present a contract renewal for K-12 Insights. K-12 Insights provides 2 different services for the district. One is the Engage platform, which powers the climate and culture surveys, which we do in the fall and also in the spring. We just completed a survey. We'll be presenting that at a board meeting in the near future. And so this is a platform that allows us to create the questions, to get all of the answers, to get the averages and print out that information or present that information. Also, a tool is the Let's Talk tool, which is something that we launched this year. Let's Talk is a chat bot that goes onto the website. Several school districts use it. It allows people to type in questions or reach out to get information via the website. There's also a call line. You can have a knowledge base set up. It does have generative AI, so if people ask questions, it can come up with answers or go direct to the knowledge base if we give them information to provide people answers. And this is something that's trackable, where it shows how often people respond, how quickly people respond, and also after any inquiry, it sends them a comment form where they can give feedback, and we're able to track that too. And so we use both of these tools this year. For Let's Talk, we used it in a limited capacity, but this year we want to roll it out district-wide to where all the school secretaries will be trained on it. So all the schools will be using it instead of we had about 3 or 4 people that were trained this year that were managing it for the entire district. And so this is something that was brought to the board last year. It's the same contract, it's just a renewal. The amount is $16,249 that is budgeted through the communications budget. Are there any questions?
I was just curious whether or not there are opportunities for different departments to facilitate surveys through it, or it has to be kind of filtered through your department and they set it up. Does it have a system where it restricts, I guess, the user type and they can kind of do
No,
surveys?
so through K-12 Insights, we're able to assign different users. And so right now, my department usually assists other departments in setting up surveys. Also, Ms. Tina Adams Turnipseed sets up a lot of surveys, but I know federal programs did a survey through K-12 Insight. So we're able to assign that to any other school or any other department. We just try to assign them and then train them so that they're familiar with the service, or they can give me the questions and my team will set up the surveys for them.
Do they have any feature that allows either the staff or community to give any feedback or share any concerns without identifying themselves?
Yes, so through the Let's Talk platform, people are able to leave comments or have inquiries, and it can be anonymous or they can leave their name. And I believe even if it's anonymous, there still is a way for them to get a response. So it'll email them a response, but it'll never share their email address with us if they choose. And so I was actually looking through a few inquiries today like that, where I had no idea who it was that was asking, but I was still able to respond to them.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sistrum. Our next item up for discussion is the selection of the demographic services. Making this presentation is Mr. Carl Scheid, the Executive Director of Facilities, and this is in conjunction with policy DJF purchasing. Mr. Scheid?
Good evening, once again, Board of Education, Dr. Patton, colleagues and community. As stated in the background of this information, we issued an RFP for demographic services in April 2024. We received 4 proposals. 3 of those firms were brought forward before the Demographic Services Selection Committee. Each of the firms presented information about the services which were to be performed for the school district. The committee scored each firm, and the committee concluded that Corrigan Clark would best serve the needs of the school district in performance of the demographic services. That's kind of the process. With me tonight is Mr. Steve Raskin from Corrigan Clark, who is going to go through the scope of work that's going to be performed. This item is for discussion, but it's also for approval later on in this meeting. The cost associated with this has been budgeted, and it's at a cost of $53,900. This time I'll invite Mr. Raskin forward.
Good evening, everyone. Board of Education, Superintendent Patton, thank you very much. As Mr. Scheid had indicated, my name is Steve Raskin. I'm with Corrigan Clark.
Excuse me, can you speak into the mic? We have a phone Zoom.
Thank you very much. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. So again, thank you for allowing me to be here this evening. The Corrigan Clark and Demographic Analytic Advisor Team really offers a truly interdisciplinary approach to demographic analysis. Corrigan Clark, previously known as Ittner Architects, has had the privilege of serving the St. Louis community for more than 125 years. And we've got a long working relationship with demographic analytics as well. So again, we provide a truly interdisciplinary approach, including architects, planners, engineers, as well as demographers, to providing a truly unique demographic experience. Okay.
Can you all advance that?
Oh, thank you very much. So very, very quickly, I'll just kind of go through a couple of the key points that we'll be looking at. Gotcha. Thank you very much. So really, phase 0 is really all about kickoff and onboarding. That's really when we talk about the collaborative process, working with the board, the superintendent, your building leaders, your students, your communities, really coming up with a collaborative approach to the entire demographic process. It's really about involving your stakeholders. It's about understanding the roles, responsibilities, and also understanding the timeline for which we're going to be proceeding with the project. Phase 1 is really all about data collection and discovery. And this is where we really look at data that the district will have internally. This is where, working with our demographic partners, we'll find information that's publicly available. We'll work together to find what information we don't have and what we need, and finding a collaborative way to actually get the rest of that information. We'll also talk about geographic processing, which is really about geocoding, aggregation, disaggregation, and reconciliation of your data assets. It's really just looking at the information that's available and starting to graphically illustrate it as part of the process. Then we look at analysis and quality assurance. That's where we really start looking at the detailed information that's been provided to us. We look at things like student enrollment, capacity, utilization, all manner of different data points. And these are things that we'll talk about as a collective team and identify those things that are important to the district that need to be included as part of this particular process. We'll also review things like project and or forecasting. This is really where we start looking at some of that information and look at different methodologies where we can forecast some of that data, getting the information the district needs to be moving forward. Potentially, we could be looking at redistricting analysis, which is where we start looking at different analytic tools and different possibilities, whether they be balancing for school utilization. We could be looking at economic, cultural, ethnic diversity, accounting for future growth and or decline, proximity of different schools, and all manner of other data points that we could be looking at. And ultimately, phase 6 is all about reporting. That's really where we come back to the board and we provide you with the information as we've been working through this entire process, collaboratively working with your community, your building leaders, and again, your district leaders. So we propose a preliminary schedule, which was discussed early on, and this is purely for discussion, which will be part of the process during our part 0, our onboarding, where we look at the data collection and discovery. We anticipate beginning that in late July and completing that through mid-August. Then we look through the geographic processing that we talked about. That's probably a late July through late August activity. As we look through analysis and quality assurance, again, late July through late August. Project and or forecasting, August through early October, redistricting analysis through early September and mid-October. I would identify that September is really a key milestone. That's when you report your current academic year enrollments to DESE in the state of Missouri. So we'll have a conversation about how much information we'll be using from previous year's enrollments and how much you want to use as part of your current. And we can talk about that forecasting process as we go through. And then ultimately in late October, we can look at reporting, coming back to the board and providing reporting information as well as actionable recommendations moving forward. It's important as part of that project delivery to really understand what the district is going to be getting at the end of this process. And again, this is a collaborative effort. I say that many times. It's really understanding what you need and what you need for making decisions moving forward. We'll be providing executive analysis and overviews of the summary, an analysis of geographic and demographic trends. We'll be looking at methodologies and assumptions. We'll also talk about analysis and presentation of student populations, grade levels, and schools for the forecasting period. We can be looking anywhere from 5 to 20 years. That's a conversation that we can have with you all. We'll look at characteristics of student population by grade level, by school, or throughout that forecasting period. We'll provide a slide deck of all of our findings for research and presentation purposes. We'll also, important that we'll be providing all the shapefiles, all the graphic information through QGIS and other systems so that you will own this data at the end of the process so that you can continue to update that information. And then we'll also provide it in any number of data formats that you might need moving forward through for other purposes. I think it's important to also talk about the demographics is really a key initial step in the process of understanding what your district and your district trends are. That's what we're here to talk about today. However, should the district elect to move forward with additional options and additional data gathering points, I prepared this quick little slide that talks about master planning just from a very high level. Item number 01 is really what we're talking about tonight, which is demographics. Should the district elect to move forward, there are other options for facility condition assessments. We could be looking at facility capacity and utilizations, educational adequacies. We can also look at step 2 in terms of space needs analysis. We can also look at optimization scenarios and ultimately recommendations for capital improvement plans. That's not what we're here to talk about today, but these are things that the district might look at moving forward in terms of realizations of capital improvements and things like that moving forward. One thing I did want to share with you is that we are actually partnering with demographic analytic advisors with the St. Louis Public Schools. And I shared this one slide with you tonight because this is something that's been very helpful with that district. What we're looking at today is actually just a sample dashboard. We're doing that for all of their facilities. We can do the exact same thing for this district if that is important to you, where we identify a quick snapshot of each of the individual buildings. We look at building summaries. We look at grades served. We look at enrollments. We look at building size, square footage, acreage. We look at original construction dates. We look at capacity and utilization, and that's important because your buildings are somewhat aged in some cases. So they would have a certain allowable student occupancy, and you may be putting X number of students in those classrooms. Maybe you have quite a few, maybe you don't have quite a few. That's really what this analysis is all about. We also can identify through the facility conditions assessment process, critical maintenance items. We can be looking at any number of criteria, including exterior facades, interiors, flooring, roofing, building infrastructure, structure, and things like that. It's always important to also identify all the hard work that the district does on a regular basis in terms of ongoing maintenance and operations. In this particular case, the district is doing a lot of work for drinking fountain replacements, roofing, stair treads, a lot of safety and security things that are happening as part of those buildings. On the right-hand side, you see 4 speedometers. And this is really the Facility Condition Assessment Index. That basically is a percentage. It's the cost of the repair and replacement of that building relative to the cost of the repairs relative to the replacement. I use the analogy of a used car. There comes a point where your 20-year-old car, you love it, it's giving you a great life, but when you start paying for it a certain dollar amount, you start to having to have those hard conversations with your car about what that relationship is going to look like. So what we've done here is we graphically illustrate, and this is a percentile. Generally speaking, 0 to 10, which is yellows, those are buildings that are in relatively good shape. You're doing a great job. The building is going to give you long service. Once you get to that 10 to 20 percentile range, you start thinking about what that long term is going to be. Once you hit 30% and you start getting in red, that's when you have those hard conversations about significant capital improvements for those buildings or similar other conversations. In this case, we do this graphically, and we also do it on a year-by-year cost basis. And we also can include things like current replacement values. So again, we're looking at down the future, but these are some of the tools that the Cordy and Clark data analytics team can provide to you. So with that being said, I promise to be brief. So I'd like to open it up to any questions that you might have.
President,
Yes.
can I ask a question, please?
Yes.
It's phase 1.
Phase 1, yes.
How you plan to gather that information? And I'll just state my comments editorial after that too. All this is wonderful, but I know you know that we are driven by taxpayer dollars. So, you know, I'm one that'll drive a car to 22 years. Okay, there are other people who don't do that. We gotta use it until we can't use it anymore because we're depending on the public for this. So I need to understand how this is going to impact what we do for the district with the data. First of all, how you gather the data and who you get it from. I know a lot of it is public, but so that's my first question. And then my second question, I guess, Superintendent, is for you. Because when it comes back that we already know the buildings are old and they need to be replaced, then we're gonna have to get a bond issue, so.
Absolutely. So the data discovery and collection is really, that's the key. That's the foundation by which we make all of our decision process. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to sit down with the district. We're going to analyze all of the student information that you may have. Some of it may be in PDFs. Some of it may be in Excel spreadsheets. Some of the things you may have great historical data over the last 20 years. Fantastic. Let's sit down and talk about that. Let's also talk about the information that you don't have. Do you have all of the live birth records? Do you have all of the information relative to transient populations coming in and out of the community? You're very unique in that you've got a number of smaller communities that feed into your school district, and understanding how each of those individual communities, something as simple as what constitutes residency in some of your surrounding areas. It's not the same. So we need to go through and analyze a lot of that information from all of your constituencies and all of the communities that are serving the district. I identified a number of data points. We can be looking at everything from decennial census data from 2020. We can be looking at American Community Service information. We can be looking at current state and county population estimates. We can be looking at building permits. We can be looking at housing estimates, City Council master planning, Google Earth. We can be looking at local utility information in terms of some of the energy usage and some of the information that they contained. We also look at any number of, you mentioned charter schools. That's something that Should that be something that goes forward, that'll be information that we would have to understand as well. We'll also be looking at some of the information that you might have, your attendance information, your enrollment information. Do you keep track of homeschool students within your community? These are a series of questions. There's 35, 40 different data points that we could be looking at that will be feeding into the system, feeding into this process. Again, it's an open, collaborative. We want to make sure it's engaging and getting all the data coming in that we can analyze and provide that output that you need.
And Ms. Lane, let me add to that, the original idea for this was just to look at just look at our population. Is it growing in one area, shrinking in other areas? What is our birth rates? To look at our facilities, really. So we're looking at all of our schools. Are we using them to capacity? Are there schools we can combine? So that is really the real reason. The section that you questioned was the building maintenance and all of that. That's not part of the quote that he's given us. That part is extra if we want to do that. So that will not be a part of what we're doing initially. We're looking at our population, where is it growing, where is it shrinking, so that we can better use our facilities. That is the goal of this initially. Now, he did say that if we wanted to, we could get all of the other information that was in the last two slides, but we're not looking at that information currently.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So with this information here, and I know.
Ms. Mario,
Oh,
can you?
sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. And I know that we have quite a few geo tracks within our school district, just based on the municipalities and the areas that are part of our district. Will you be incorporating the various municipalities and for example, I live in Dale Woods, there's Bell Fountain. So would you be incorporating information from those, from the municipalities, so that we can see, how do I want to say it?
Like
The
trends and
growth,
that-
right, the growth of those cities, how that can be impactful for what we're trying to do at the district. I guess that's what I'm trying.
Absolutely. That is part of that data gathering exercise. As I mentioned earlier, the local municipalities, and you make an excellent point.
Mhm.
We will have outreach with each of those individual municipalities. Oftentimes, the Board of Education or the superintendent can assist in that process. It's all publicly available information.
right.
Sometimes we just have to ask the right questions and get to the right people to get the information that we need. But you're 100% correct. We'll be analyzing all of that information. It's somewhat complicated sometimes because we have to kind of parse it out a little bit. But again, that's why we bring the data analytics team to the table, and they're experts at that type of data and analysis.
Does it show in relation to community growth and community decline? Will it show us areas that are basically on the rebound in the section that you're interested in doing, and areas that are in decline?
Yes, we will most certainly be looking at trending. That was one of the things I talked about in terms of historic data.
Right.
Depending on what data is available, whether it's 1 year, 3 year, 5 year in history, we can always go backwards and we can start looking at trends. And again, we can give you trends from 1, 3, 5, 10, and 20 years moving forward. Similarly, we can go backwards as far as the data may take us. And we can start to look at that trending information and show you what direction things might be going.
Okay, thank you. That's important.
Yes.
That's very important.
Very detailed and very complicated. And I understand how important it is for the superintendent to be able to have the relationship in our communities and what have you. Because if the data that she gets and you get isn't honest and upfront, that's gonna skew everything.
Right.
So everybody's gotta tell the truth.
Right.
Mhm.
And Ms. Lane and the board, one of the things we asked when we met with him was, will this also help us identify some of the homes that are being used that are vacant,
Yeah.
that people are using the addresses? And so
Mhm.
this will help us. So this information will help us in more ways than
Yes.
one, and it will be very useful for us.
My question is about, like, how far out does the data project as far as enrollment? And I previously asked about a tie-in to us doing budget projections off of your enrollment data. Could you speak a little bit more to that?
As I mentioned earlier, we can forecast as long as you want. I think the original RFP was for 5 years. Traditionally, we can extrapolate that data as far as you'd like. Oftentimes, we'll go 5, 10, upwards of even 20 years. There is an art and a science to that, so we'll provide ranges the farther we get out. But certainly, we'll provide that data to you in any format, in any fashion that is requested by the district, so that you can use that for your own enrollment projections and moving forward as well.
So normally when you make recommendations, do you also offer any package where you can support the implementation and execution of those recommendations?
Can you be more specific?
So
please?
like if you recommended that a school building be closed, for instance, do you help with facilitating that process with the community and what that would look like conversation wise and, like the execution of that recommendation?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Porter and Clark has been doing this for a long, long time, and I've been doing this for 30 years myself. So really, it's that community engagement component. It's communicating with your constituency, everything from the Board of Education to your superintendent, to your district level leadership, to your building leadership, your parents, your students, your communities. It's all about that level of communication and understanding, which really makes these types of exercises successful. We'll partner with you every step along the way. As part of that kickoff, we can have those conversations in terms of what that starts to look like. But absolutely, to be successful, it really needs to be a community effort.
So one last question, this is from your professional experience. What additional items should we add to be the most intentional around the data that we're looking to have? What would you recommend?
Well, as I showed on that last slide, with the St. Louis Public Schools, which have similar challenges, slightly different scale, the Facility Condition Index is a really useful tool. Obviously, it gives us a lot of good information, but like anything else, Ms. Lane, I completely understand your question. But if we're to have that hypothetical moving forward, the nice thing about that is it gives us the percentile for that FCI score. But more importantly, it gives us a detailed analysis of critical infrastructure needs today, critical infrastructure needs in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and we can then extrapolate that out as well. The nice thing about that is that, as you mentioned, using that data for future use, we can give you a very detailed cost program. So today, Building X has needs of roofing, windows, doors, $50,000. In 3 years, you have additional items. You have a boiler. You might have some water coolers. It might be $20,000. Let's get down to year 5. Let's get down to year 10 and 20. We can extrapolate that as far as you like. We can then adjust that for inflation, typically between 5 and 7%. And we can give you a 20-year basically build out of all of your maintenance needs for everything in the district. We can tell you when your roofs are going to go out of warranty. We can tell you when your package units are going to be, your expected useful lifespan is going to come to a point. That's really important, not just for the facility condition assessment score, but also for your district and your facility department to really have a good handle about what is your long-term maintenance going to be. So to my question earlier about the car, it's important to have that information. If you know you have to replace the brakes, the transmission, the tires, whatever, having that information as quickly as possible gives you, as a board, the information so that you can make informed decisions over the next couple of years in terms of your capital programs and what's important to you. So I think that facility condition index is really important for a number of different things. And then obviously taking all that information and moving forward into some kind of a long-term master plan where you can have a vision of not just today, tomorrow, but the next 5, 10, even 20 years. So I hope that it responds to your question.
Yes, now I have a question for the superintendent. That piece that he mentioned, is that something that could be facilitated internally, or would it be best to outsource that? Is that?
You know what, I'm gonna let Carl Scheid speak to that, Dr. May, because as the Executive Director of Facilities, he can better, he came, I think, about a year ago, Carl. And
Yes.
so I think he's done an excellent job of maintaining our district. It looks different these days than it had in the past. And so I'm going to let you speak to that. Is that something that you feel like your department can handle? Is that something that you want us to consider as we look at this agreement?
I think it's something that does need to be looked at closer, because Now, I have gone through a process like this at my previous district, and in which we did have these services performed. It is very comprehensive. It's very in-depth in terms of the deep dive that is taken to really do that full facility assessment and to index all those data points. So yes, it does have value. It has value as you are planning for the future, as you're looking down the road. You know, we know that our district has some challenges as it relates to our facilities. We know that there's some critical needs, especially looking at our high school for the long term. So, you know, and that's not going to be a inexpensive endeavor. So, you know, to go through a master planning process, then it kind of gives us a roadmap for the future. So we know what we're going to focus on in the next 5 years, the 10 years and so forth. And I've been through a master planning process before, and it did act as a roadmap for our district, and allowed us. So as we accomplished projects and made improvements, we still had those other goals that were out there, of things that we needed to achieve and things we needed to address. And that is still guiding that district today, you know, as they move forward and progress. So I think there's value in that. You know, it definitely gives you a map into the future. Do you have to stop and reassess because conditions change? Absolutely. But, you know, it definitely is a good tool to measure where you're at, where you're going with your facilities, how you budget from year to year even. You know, it's valuable information because, you know, if we have a comprehensive analysis that shows all of those different facets, it allows us, district administration, to plan. So I can sit down with Dr. Singleton and the superintendent, and we can look at where we're at financially. We can look at potential for possibility of bond issues as we retire more debt and could, you know, actually perform more sale of bonds. And then, you know, obviously, then if there's a bigger initiative, you know, that would obviously be a higher level discussion, you know, amongst the board and the community, you know, for larger initiatives, but it definitely adds value and gives us a ability to create a roadmap for the future.
So do we know at this point, what that additional, cost would be to add on so that when we're ready to make a decision, we, you know, it's already, we're talking about it now. Do we know that additional cost for that facility index or whatever he just mentioned?
I think the best approach to that would be, we would have a separate process for that. So that, you know, because we do have to make sure that we run an appropriate process for that.
Okay, talk about cost wise?
Yes, so,
Okay. So you won't.
so
bring
we're
it to
not,
the
we're
board
not
this
seeking
time?
that tonight.
Okay,
While we are discussing it as an administration and board, you know, that is a point of to consider going forward, but that is not,
that we'll do it as an add-on later.
that would be
maybe.
that would be an add-on scenario versus part of
You
this
want to
tonight.
do this one right now?
Correct.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to, you know, we know that we have to do the demographic work now to give us our,
For the project management plan to be on time.
correct. But this is something that, yes, the district should consider.
I
going
have one
forward.
question, President. Just one final question. Mr. Raskin, if you said it, I didn't hear. How long do you project this project to take?
I believe our original assessment was to have this completed in, I believe it was October. But that schedule is really predicated on the board. We can go faster, we can go slower. I think that's a conversation we have at our initial kickoff meeting. And we have that conversation internally and come up with something that makes sense. Again, that was what we put together as part of our original statement of qualifications in our proposal. But I think that's 100% subject to conversations and discussion.
Are there any questions?
Okay.
I just think that this is really great that this is timely because I can't remember the last demographic study that was done. It's been a long time.
15
So it
years,
is time,
yes.
yeah.
15
So it is definitely timely that it is done because they're very beneficial when you do.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Our next item up for discussion is the staff planning adjustment. Making this presentation is Mr. Travis Ford, our Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources. Mr. Ford?
Good evening, school board, Dr. Patton, colleagues and community. Each year, the staffing plan takes into consideration the projected enrollment at each site and the needs. Due to the enrollment projections and program needs for the 2024-25 school year, a position reclassification is being recommended to the staffing plan. Due to discipline challenges at Riverview Gardens High School during the last school year, it is in need of additional support, especially for transitioning ninth grade students. Currently, Riverview Gardens has one allocation still on their staffing plan for NJROTC. The high school's NJROTC program has not been fully staffed in several years due to the Navy experiencing shortages and not being able to provide staff. In order to support the transitioning ninth grade students, improve the school and culture and climate, and make the environment more conducive to learning, it is recommended that the one NJROTC allocation be converted to a Dean of Students allocation. The Dean of Student will be able to perform some of the duties of the assistant principals. However, they would not have the administrative authority to issue student consequences. This position is budgeted. It will come out of GOB. It is projected to be approximately $94,233. That includes salary and benefits. Are there any questions?
Yes. So with this amount that is projected, does that align with that teaching staff, salary?
It does. It aligns
Okay.
with it because this is around where we feel the average salary would be. It could be a little lower, but with staff members coming in, being allowed up to 10 years, it would be aligned with it. It would be on the higher end.
And, will they be required to have administrative certification
They're
with the
not required.
expectation?
I'm sorry, the expectation is not that they have administrative certification. They must have teaching certification. It is preferred that they have administrative certification or be working on it.
Are we considering, starting with an internal, candidacy?
We always consider internal candidates. So the posting will go out to internal candidates first, and then it will be open to all other candidates.
Okay.
This is not a question, but just a long time observation. We had a dean of students one time before who basically was signing and sending out information to parents as a principal. And it caused confusion many years back with the pay scale. So we just want to make sure that the dean of students signs things, dean of students, and that they recognize that even though they'll have some of the similar duties as an assistant principal, that they are not an assistant principal. You really have to monitor that because it confused some people in our HR department many years ago. And so that person was compensated incorrectly.
Yes, ma'am. Well, we will make sure that the compensation is correct, and we'll also work with the building principal and the other administrators to understand, what the responsibility and the role is.
Thank you.
My concern, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
My concern, with the dean of students not being a certified administrator is that this person is handing out discipline. And we know that suspensions can only be done by a certified person. So with that in mind, if you have a dean of student and if he or she is merely making a recommendation for a suspension, that still has to go through the assistant principal or through the principal. So now that assistant principal is still doing the work. And, he may be coming in the forefront and saying, hey, let's recommend so-and-so for 3-day suspension, but it still takes that principal to sign off on it, or that assistant principal. And to me, that person is doing the double work. I would suggest that if we hire a dean of students, that it should be someone who is certified as a principal so that they can handle the discipline. And yes, you want to check with the assistant principals or the grade level principal, but so that they can handle their own workload and do that, and not, to me, it creates more work
Okay.
for the assistant.
And that is understandable. A portion of that assistant principal's job with handling the mediations, the different things, even the things that lead up to consequences, it is very time consuming. So we believe that having this position in place will really support that, will really cut down that time of that assistant principal. It'll give, especially for the ninth grade students that are transitioning from middle school to more movement at the high school, it'll give them more support of an administrator or almost administrator being able to support them with issues, mediations, help them to get to restorative practices and those pieces, and then also support that administrator that is assigned to those students.
I just don't want a parent to be able to come back and say, he suspended my child and he's not even the principal, or he has no authority to do so.
And it will be made clear that that person is not allowed, and it's in the job description. And it will be made clear as we go through the hiring process that they will only be able to recommend and provide the supporting documentation.
All right, thank you. Yes.
Mr. Ford?
Yes, ma'am.
This position is on the teacher salary
It
schedule?
is.
This is not administrative. Yes.
Thank you.
That concludes our item for discussion.
Now we can,
Oh, the consent
go to,
agenda.
the consent agenda, motion to approve the consent agenda. And can we approve them items A, B, C, D, E, F, G? So,
You only need one motion
okay,
for the.
right,
Unless
okay,
you pull
H
it
through N, unless, is there any that? Let's see.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Mara Real and second by Ms. Monica Williams to approve the consent agenda.
For the discussion, real fast. The, July 9th, do you show a attachment for those minutes on yours?
Where are you looking?
It's
Oh,
at
I'm sorry.
alphabet A.
These are the open session minutes. Let's see.
No, it's not attached.
There's no attachment. I
attachment.
think we need to
So
pull
do we
that one.
need to pull that off. Madam Chair, I'd like to amend the motion that I made to remove item A since the minutes were not attached, and approve the remainder of the consent agenda.
Second.
Would it also be items B and C? There's no.
No, it's on there for those. It's
Okay.
right here.
Oh, okay,
You should see a clock.
right, yes. It has been motioned by Ms. Mara Real to approve the consent agenda with the exception of item A. Can I get a second?
I second it.
And, Ms. Dr. May has second. Roll call vote, please, Shay.
Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Williams? Yes. Ms. Tisworth? Oh, sorry. Ms. Lane?
Yes.
Ms. Mario?
Yes.
Dr. Avant Elliott?
Yes.
And Dr. Coleman?
Yes. Thank you. That motion passes. Number 12, item for actions. And we have to vote on these individually, is that correct? Is that correct, Shay? It has to be,
It can be either
Can
way.
can we
do these
collectively?
collectively, or do they need to be separate?
We can do it like we
You
did.
can do it like you did before, collectively, yes, ma'am.
I'm asking for a motion to approve items for actions A through E.
I would like to make a motion to approve item A, stipend for Equity in Action Conference, B, convocation keynote speaker, C, K-12 Insight contract renewal, D, selection of demographic services, and E, staffing plan adjustment.
Madam Chair, I second.
It's been moved by Dr. Avant Elliott and second by Ms. Mara Real to approve items for actions A through E as stated by Dr. May. Roll call vote, please.
Yes. Ms. Jackson,
Yes.
Ms. Williams,
Yes.
Ms. Lane,
Yes.
Dr.
Yes.
Von Elliott.
Yes.
Ms. Marell,
Yes.
and Dr. Coleman.
Yes. Do the minutes need to reflect that, Ms. Titsworth?
They will.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, at this time, I'd like a motion to adjourn.
Madam Chair, I so move.
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Mara Real and second by Dr. Von Elliott that we adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.